Good evening and welcome. This is a regular meeting of the Princeton Planning Board on Thursday, December 18th, 2025. Pursuant to Section 13 of the Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given by prominently posting the resolution of regularly scheduled meetings of the Planning Board for February 2025 through January 2026. A copy was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on January 8th, 2025. Legal notice on the adoption of said resolution was published in the January 17, 2025 edition of the Princeton Packet. Notice of this meeting also has been posted to the municipal website, princetonnj.gov/calendar. Notice that all regular and special meetings of the Princeton Planning Board will be held electronically via Zoom, was transmitted to the Princeton Packet and the Times, and was filed with the Clerk of Princeton on Tuesday, January 17, 2023. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. During hearings on applications for development or master plan consistency, which is what we have tonight, members of the public will have an opportunity to comment and ask questions. Public comment is heard by the board after representatives have finished their presentations and have been questioned by planning board members and staff. When the time comes, those wishing to comment orally should virtually raise your hand by clicking on the reactions or raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or if participating by phone, by pressing *9. Oral comments will be taken in the order in which hands were raised. We ask with respect that members of the public express your views in 3 minutes or less. A countdown clock on your screen will help speakers keep track of time. Please note that speakers who exceed 3 minutes will be interrupted. Inappropriate public comment containing obscenity, hate speech, or relating to matters not before the board will be muted. Justin, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. And before I do that, I'll just note I'm emailing with Ms. Perlmutter to get her link. So she will be joining us, but I don't think she's going to say that she's here yet because I don't see her. So
Okay.
to begin, Mr. Bodeckheimer,
Here.
Ms. Capizzoli,
Here.
Councilman Cohen, Mayor Frida,
Here.
Mr. McGowan,
Here.
Ms. Nuka,
Sorry, here.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Here.
Ms. Perlmutter, Mr. Taylor,
Here.
Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Here.
and Chair Curry Wilson.
Yes, here. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I see now Councilman Cohen is here.
Welcome,
Sorry.
David.
Thank you.
And we still are waiting for Freddie Perlmutter. Is that correct?
That's correct. I don't see her name either in the panelists or the attendees, but I'll continue to work with her to make sure she could get in.
Okay, great. Well, you'll be juggling a few things. Do we have any announcements from board members or from staff? I don't have any announcements, except that this is our last meeting of the year. Tra-la.
I did
to state the obvious.
I did want to announce that Elizabeth Kim is retiring. She's the historic preservation officer, and I don't know, Justin, if you want to announce the new officer. Or...
Certainly, yeah, I'm happy to do so. We have a new historic preservation officer starting on January 5th. So there's not going to be much time without a historic officer. And her name's Sarah Quinlan. She previously worked with the city of Jersey City and then with FEMA doing historic Section 106 reviews. So we're really excited for her to start on January 5th and be able to hit the ground running with her background and experience. And we've also been honoring Elizabeth all week and will continue to do so with a proclamation at council on Monday if anyone's interested in attending.
Great. That's good. No other announcements?
Madam Chair, I have an announcement, which is kind of a subcommittee report. So I guess I'll just say it now. But I've been coordinating with the nomination committee to get the nominations for the chair and the vice chair at our January 8th reorg meeting, whatever the date, I believe it's January 8th, the first meeting of the new year. We will have those nominations as the board considers a chair and a vice chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think we don't have other subcommittee reports. Site plan committee was canceled, so good. Okay. On to minutes, 4 sets of minutes. The first being from February 20th, 2025. I personally will abstain from these as I was absent. I see Freddie Perlmutter has a square on my screen now, or technically a rectangle. Welcome, Freddie.
I didn't get a picture. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on here.
Okay.
I got in.
Okay. So February 20 minutes. Anyone have suggested edits or corrections? And if not, would someone like to move those?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Boddigheimer. Who seconds?
I'll second.
Thank you, Julie Capizzoli. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Oh, any opposed? Thank you. Next are minutes of the regular meeting of September 4th, 2025. Any questions, corrections?
Yes, Madam Chair. There is one correction to make to the September 4th minutes that has been brought to our attention. We had a Schrodinger's Capizzoli where she was listed as both present and absent, and at the risk of stretching the metaphor to its breaking point, we opened the box and she was in fact absent that evening. So we will make that correction that Ms. Capizzoli was absent. I've double checked the minutes, and she's not listed anywhere else as voting. So that's the only correction that has to be made.
Okay, great. Thanks, Nathan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You crushed it. The box, that is. Okay, great. With that correction, would someone like to move the minutes of September 4th?
I'll move the minutes with the correction.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Ms. Nuka. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Minutes of October 16, 2025. Questions, corrections? If not, would someone move them?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. McGowan. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, Mr. Boddigheimer. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. And the minutes of November 6th, 2025. Questions, corrections? Motion?
I'll move to approve those.
Thank you, Ms. Capizzoli. And is there a second?
So, second.
Thank you, Councilman Cohen. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Abstentions are automatic if you were absent. So next up, we have a resolution for the application from the trustees of Princeton University. This was a preliminary and final major site plan for the Quantum Institute at Fitz-Randolph Road in Ivy Lane. It's at block 50.01, lot 18.01. File P 2525-605P. Any comments or other thoughts about the resolution? Nothing. Okay.
I'm feeling very quantum, so I'm going to move to approve.
I'll
Thanks,
second.
Julie. Thank
Second.
you, David. Great. Justin, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. And I have the following 4 members as not present for that vote, so I won't call their names. Mr. Boddigheimer, Mayor Frieda, Ms. Nuka, and Ms. Perlmutter.
Okay.
And I think I have to abstain anyway.
Yeah, if you weren't there, you
Right,
don't
and
have to.
Nat as
Yeah,
well.
you
Yeah.
abstain from the case, correct. Ms. Capizoli,
Yes.
Councilman Cohen,
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Mr. Taylor,
Yes.
Ms. Wilson Anderson,
Yes.
and Chair Curry Wilson.
Yes. Thank you. And next up, we have an ordinance referral for master plan consistency. This is ordinance 2025-19, an ordinance by the Municipality of Princeton regarding tree removal permit requirements and amending chapters 22 and 10B of the Code of the Township of Princeton, New Jersey, 1968. Well, this goes back a bit. And we have municipal engineer Deanna Stockton here to talk a bit about this ordinance referral since it's been in her wheelhouse. And then I think she may turn to Nathan Foote for a little bit more information. But Deanna, welcome again. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start with just a little bit of an introduction and then review some of the changes that are proposed as part of this ordinance. Princeton places a high priority on its urban forest, which is exemplified in our designation as a Tree City USA for over 29 years. In addition, the Princeton Master Plan In addition to the Princeton Master Plan, we are guided by a 5-year community forestry management plan and the following 2 code sections related to preserving, enhancing, and maintaining this natural resource. Those code sections are Chapter 22, entitled Trees and Shrubs, as well as Chapter 10B, subsection 227A, entitled Tree Preservation, Protection, and Mitigation. Members of the Department of Infrastructure and Operations, the Shade Tree Commission, and the Environmental Commission collaborated on the proposed ordinance before you tonight. And we are seeking your determination of its consistency with the master plan. Memos in your agenda packet from both myself and Nathan Foote itemize the modifications included in this ordinance. 2 primary goals of this ordinance are to better align Princeton's tree and shrub regulations with that of DEP's model tree removal replacement ordinance. And the second goal is to better align Chapter 22 and Chapter 10B to 27A. In terms of the Department of Environmental Protection, the threshold for tree removal permits is being lowered in this ordinance to 6-inch diameter from the current 8-inch diameter, and the replacement table has been enhanced for a greater number of replacement trees for larger diameter removals. For Chapter 10B 227A, the tree preservation and protection requirements, as well as the replacement table, are being redirected to Chapter 22 rather than being independent of it. We have found that duplicating information like the replacement table in both Chapter 22 and 10B 227A can result in errors, such as the replacement fee not being updated in both locations. In addition to these changes, housekeeping edits are proposed to codify how the municipality and the arborist have been managing the urban forest, the permit program, and the Shade Tree Trust Reserve. The ordinance would become effective on January 1st, 2026. Any applications that have been submitted to a land use board and deemed complete prior to this date would not be subject to the new ordinance requirement. We are committed to protecting, enhancing, and maintaining Princeton's urban forest and appreciate your finding that this proposed ordinance is consistent with the 2023 master plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nathan.
Thank you, Deanna. So as Ms. Stockton has already summarized the ordinance and the changes that are being made to both Chapter T 22 as well as 10B 227. What I'll do is I will just focus on what is Section 3 of my memorandum dated December 12th, 2025, which is in regards to the master plan consistency. So I did review the ordinance as well as the master plan, and I did find that ordinance 2025-19 is substantially consistent with the 2023 Princeton master plan, including several goals across multiple elements of the plan. One of the key findings from the community input in the introduction section of the plan is that the natural environment is a treasured asset, and that's found on page 9 of the master plan document. And existing trees that would be subject to those modifications that Ms. Stockton has summarized are important elements of that natural environment. The vision statement in the master plan includes that Princeton will be livable, quote, livable, beautiful, healthy, and accessible, end quote, and quote, sustainable, resilient, and carbon neutral, end quote. And that can be found on page 17 of the master plan. And ensuring that existing trees with a diameter at breast height or DBH of 6 inches and higher are maintained or replaced will enhance the livability and beauty of Princeton, and the effects of the canopy on reducing heat at ground level will help keep Princeton sustainable into the future. Additionally, the ordinance is substantially consistent with the following goals identified in the master plan. I'll state what those goals are, and then how the proposed ordinance is consistent with those goals. So land use goal number 8 is to improve resiliency to climate change and natural hazards. The ordinance enhances tree protection and removal mitigation, which helps reduce heat-related problems at the ground level. Second, natural resource conservation goal number 52, coordinate preservation and development to accommodate population growth while preserving and enhancing natural resources. This ordinance enhances preservation of a natural resource, that is trees, while still allowing for mitigation for impacts of permitted development. Number 3, natural resource conservation goal number 57, manage nuisance and invasive species to protect native ecosystems and restore natural vegetation. This ordinance includes provisions for preventing invasive species as identified by the New Jersey Invasive Species Strike Team from being used as replacement trees. Next, natural resource conservation goal number 59, preserve and enhance existing visual resources such as scenic corridors, tree-lined streets, historic landscapes, open agricultural land, and woodlands. Trees are important elements of the visual resources of the municipality, both directly, as is noted in the goal itself, tree-lined streets, and indirectly, they enhance the scenic corridors, the historic landscapes, the agricultural land, and of course, obviously, the woodlands. The ordinance enhances tree protection and removal mitigation, thus helping to preserve the visual landscape of, as I mentioned, corridor streets and woodlands. And then finally, open space and recreation goal number 69, reduce the threats of the natural environment from pests, disease, and non-native invasive species. And as I've already mentioned, the ordinance includes provisions for preventing invasive species from being used as replacement trees. And so in conclusion, I do find that the ordinance is substantially consistent with the master plan and recommend that the board find that substantial consistency with the master plan in their recommendation to council. And with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Foote, and also Ms. Stockton. That was a great overview, or more than an overview, some detail. And you know, I feel like I agree, having heard what you said and read what you've written, that this is substantially consistent with the master plan, and also it feels like it implements important pieces of the master plan that a lot of us care about deeply. So thank you for your work on it. And thanks also to the Shade Tree Committee. I don't mean to be getting ahead of myself, but Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, I just wanted to make one minor comment that Deanna and Nathan didn't touch on in their reports, which is an explanation of the component of the ordinance where they're changing the applicability of funding from the Shade Tree Trust Fund. One of the changes that's being made is that funding no longer has to be restricted to public lands. And this is something I'm particularly excited about because I'd like to see the trust fund used to incentivize replanting of trees that have come down on private property, in particular, like dead trees, ones that would not otherwise have to be replaced, like ash trees that were damaged by emerald ash borers. So I'm just, from both from a stormwater management and from a more general environmental standpoint, I'm really excited about that change, though it's minor, a minor part of the overall ordinance.
Thank you for that. That's great to know. Jack Taylor?
Yeah, first of all, Nathan, let me congratulate you again. The ordinance is collaborative, it's comprehensive, it's impressive. It's impressive, it's in detail, impressive in its substance, and it's also impressive in the way you've explained it. Let me just go for a moment to the 60% cover comment. It caught my attention that our forestry cover is about 60%, that it over recent years has reduced 5%. Do we as a community have any analytical basis or relationship to translate the recommendations before us to the possible impact or the range of the impact on staying at, say, 60, or do we have a different target? It's the relationship between the documentation and any experience we have with the documentation's implementation.
Can I respond?
Deanna, is that?
Yes, thank you. So you've touched on a very important topic, especially to our Shade Tree Commission, we have had loss to our canopy, and as we continue to permit trees to be taken down, even though there's the replacement, the canopy takes a significant amount of time to regenerate, to replace what is lost. And so we are also, I was going to mention this at the end, we are also on Monday night presenting to council the community forestry management plan that we collectively worked on this year. It's a 5-year plan that works in conjunction with these ordinances and the master plan, but it sets out some different goals and objectives and action items to work on. And that is one of the canopy maintenance and enhancement has been a big topic of conversation. And while we have indicated some action items about increasing our number of trees planted on public lands, we struggled to really get to the heart of the matter that you brought up of the data analysis and what does this translate to, and to go even further of establishing goals related to the canopy rather than just tree replacement. So it is something that I imagine that the Shade Tree Commission will be working on over the next couple of years in response to the work that we've done on the community forestry management plan.
Yeah, thank you, Deanna.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the question, Jack. Justin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'd just like to add to that, we've continued to improve our GIS mapping capabilities. The municipality now has a GIS analyst. We're also working on creating these different 3D mapping, utilizing these software and things like that. And we're looking to see how we can factor in things like our tree cover to get these numbers that you're asking for, because we're certainly, I think we heard loud and clear during the master plan approval process that people wanted data in many different ways, and trees certainly were one of them. So by continuing to, thankfully, the council continues to fund us for GIS mapping and sees the importance of it. And I think as we continue to create these systems, we will be able to utilize them for things like that. That being said, we have to, there's a lot of background work we're catching up on. We just put out a simple map of whether you're in Princeton or if you're somewhere else with a Princeton address. So that's the kind of software on the other end of very simple but very practical. And we're looking to continue to find ways that it's very data heavy and able to track those things.
Mhm.
Thanks for adding that, Justin. That's actually was going to be one of the next things I asked GIS to work on is updating our tree inventory and looking at what analytics we can do with it.
Yep.
Great. Excellent. Councilman Cohen and then Jack Taylor again. Oh, okay. And then Claudia Wilson Anderson. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I just wanted to make the point that, it's extremely difficult to regenerate our canopy just by planting street trees. We do try to replace them when they die, but if you're just planting on public lands, and we're actually making some efforts, we've gotten some grants for replacing trees that were lost, in some of the superstorms in mountain lakes and some of the trees that have been lost, again, due to climate change from the infestations and disease and stuff. But part of the challenge is to replace trees that are being lost on private land. And that's why I'm just referring back to my excitement about the possibility of incentivizing planting on private land with public funds, because that's got to be an important piece of trying to restore the canopy. I'm relating this back to Jack's question. So really important what Deanna was saying and what Justin was saying about how we measure the canopy, but it's not just about how we measure it. It's about where can we replace it. And we have to be focusing on public and private lands in order to really meet that challenge.
It's so good that this is that we're focusing on this. It's incredibly important. Claudia?
Most of what I wanted to say, I think David just said, but I did want to echo that I think it's incredibly important that there is some kind of a partnership with the private sector so that private people feel that they have a part in this. I know the Arbor Society was giving out native trees downtown maybe a year or two ago. And however we can encourage the private sector to be involved, especially if there's financial ability to be supported in this effort. There's a lot of land in private hands that are dealing with diseases with the ash borers on the ash trees, but also the maple trees too. There's new diseases that are affecting those trees, and those trees are coming down. So again, I think
Beech trees, red oaks.
I think
a
it's
lot of
fantastic
stress on big old trees. Yep.
that there's a focus for the private sector also. So I just wanted to echo support for that.
Thank you. Justin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just, at the risk of going too far afield in this conversation, I do want to add on to one thing that Councilman Cohen said. And one of the tools that we can use to keep the canopy as it is and the magnificent trees that are already grown is through different types of tools like areas in need of redevelopment, which you'll hear about in a little bit, and redevelopment plans, where we can really figure out exactly what we want rather than just use the blunt tools of zoning, where we're basically responding after the fact rather than telling someone, no, you're keeping those trees, that area, that sort of thing. And in exchange, you're going to build a little differently than you would the way the underlying zoning would lie. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Thank you. Deanna?
And I'll add on to what Justin was saying as well. One of the big focus points that we would hope that we can work with planning board on is to let applicants know that there really is an imperative need for them to help us preserve the canopy. To Justin's point, look at different ways of developing their property so that they can keep the tree resources that are there. We've talked a lot about replacements, but we really would love to get to a point where we're not talking about replacements. We're talking about creative ways to design within a building envelope to keep as much of the canopy as we possibly can. We understand it's private property, but if at a certain point, people who come to Princeton and want to develop understand that the importance of our trees to us, and it's early on at a concept phase, then we talk less about replacements.
Yeah, really important point. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other comments, questions, thoughts? If not, would someone like to make a motion regarding the consistency of this ordinance with the master plan?
And what we usually do is recommend not only consistency, although the standard is actually
Actually consistent?
not substantially inconsistent, but saying it's consistent is fine. And we usually recommend that the ordinance be adopted as well.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Jerry. Mr. Taylor.
Yeah, just a quick practical question. Maybe, Jerry, this is a question for you. The word that always legally makes me uncomfortable is substantially. I can understand consistent, but if we add the word substantially, it suggests that something isn't in compliance and raises the question, if not, is it important? If it is, are we doing something about it? And I'm being perhaps legalistic, maybe I'm being overly practical, but the word substantially ought to be given a moment's pause and thought about.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. And there might be a case, and I'm sure there will be cases, I can't think of any in the past, where there were some inconsistencies, but the ordinance before us was substantially consistent. That's not this case, though. And I think I'd be certainly very comfortable and would recommend to the board that the board just say it's consistent with the master plan.
Okay. With all of that said, would someone like to make a motion finding this ordinance consistent with the master plan and recommending adoption?
I would be pleased to make a motion finding this ordinance consistent with the master plan and recommending adoption.
Thank you, Paula Vinuka. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Wilson Anderson. Justin, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah, just a quick.
Is Claudia able to vote on this? Do we have so many people here that I don't mean to interrupt, and maybe that's not what you were going to say.
No, that's what I was going to ask.
Okay.
Claudia will not, unfortunately, be voting on this as an alternate, so I'm not sure if she can make the motion.
Okay.
I
see Mr. Councilman Cohen's hand up too. Thanks anyway, Claudia. So seconded by David Cohen. Justin, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Boddingheimer?
Yes.
Ms. Capizzoli?
Yes.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Mayor Frida?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan,
Yes.
Ms. Nuka,
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter,
On behalf of the Environmental Commission and myself, yes.
and Chair Curry Wilson.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. Next, we have a hearing on to determine whether certain real property at 1 and 10 Franklin Avenue, and specifically lots 2, 26, and 27 and lot 2104 on the tax map of Princeton meets the requirements for and should be designated under the local redevelopment and housing law as a non-condemnation redevelopment area. Mr. Muller, can you speak to jurisdiction?
Yeah, the board has jurisdiction. Notice is proper.
Great, thank you. Is it important that I read that whole paragraph? I sort of cherry picked. There's a couple of paragraphs instead of sort of the typical title of the. I don't think it's important. I think
You don't need to.
I think I said enough.
Yeah, and that's going to be the subject of description and discussion.
Yes, precisely so. Okay, thank you. Justin, can you kick it off here?
Yes, and I see Mr. Taylor's hands up as well.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jack. Did you have a question?
Just a quick question. I read in the document that the council had requested a designation regarding non-condemnation or for development, and non-condemnation apparently means eminent domain. And I just wondered, Jerry, I don't understand the nature of how this proposal involves eminent domain versus development.
Yeah, it does not involve eminent domain. Non-condemnation implies that this is to be established as a redevelopment area without any intention of a taking. Did I?
Yeah, and not giving any
that right,
authority.
Jerry?
Yeah, and not giving any authority to the municipality to undertake eminent domain. It used to be that when there was a redevelopment area, that there was a right of eminent domain, and there was legislation adopted several years ago saying the governing body has to say at the outset, and the planning board in its recommendation has to say whether it's a condemnation designated area or non-condemnation. And obviously the decision here was that it would not be condemnation area.
I will just offer as a commentary that we own all of the property, so there would be no
Not an
possible reason to have it involve condemnation.
I simply wondered about the reference in an
Mm-hmm.
official document.
Good, thank you. Okay, Mr. Lesko.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Jerry, do I need to be sworn in because it's a hearing?
Yeah, if you could, if you raise your
Yes.
hand. And is there anybody else from no other staff, is there?
Michael Davis is here from Heron Gruel.
We can do 2 for 1.
Sure.
Both raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give you the truth?
Yes, I did.
Could you both say your full names for the record?
Sure, Justin Lesko, Lesko.
Michael Davis, Davis.
Thank you.
And thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to keep my remarks brief so I don't steal Michael's thunder. But I do just want to bring up that these 3 parcels that you're hearing about tonight as a potential area in need of redevelopment, some of the board members that have been on for a couple of years might remember this exact request from 4 years ago, earlier in 2021. The board the council did request that the board hold a hearing on an area in need of redevelopment for these 3 parcels. The board found that they met the definition of an area in need of redevelopment, but then the council didn't do the final step at that time of what is it?
Designating, yeah.
Agreeing with the designation, essentially. So that final part never happened. As a result, the council a few months back directed the board to basically hold the hearing again as more or less an update of that 2021 report, which was also done by the planning firm Herron Gruel. So you'll see even the document looks pretty similar, but everything has been updated in it, including the date, which is December 4th of this year. And with that being said, we have Michael Davis, a professional planner from Herron Gruel here, who has worked on that study. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to him, and I'm happy to answer any questions after his presentation of the report that he authored.
If I could just give 30 seconds on how the process works. It starts with the governing body in terms of an area and redevelopment. They make a recommendation, they make a request to the planning board to determine whether an area is in need of redevelopment and meets all the, at least one of the criteria, and Michael will get into all of that. And then the planning board would do an investigation, which is what we're doing right now. And if it recommends that it meets the criteria, the recommendation goes back to the governing body and they would have to accept it. But the governing body is the one that makes the final determination.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller, Mr. Lesko, and Madam Chair. My name is Michael Davis. Thank you for the introductions there. I'm a senior planner with Hire and Gruel Associates, and the background there pretty much is filled in. Essentially, this report was completed in 2021 based on the governing body's recommendation to the planning board. And now essentially what has happened is a few years have passed. That recommendation never became a designation of a redevelopment area. And now the report has been updated with updated information from 2021. So just as by way of background, there have been 3 site visits conducted with this study. There was 2 site visits conducted for the first draft of this, for the first iteration of the study in March 12th, 2021 and May 21st, 2021. And our most recent site visit was conducted on November 26th, 2025. We were able to enter 2 of the units at the second site visit, and we're able to enter units at the third site visit as well. So we do have some images later in the plan, in the document that explain the conditions inside some of these units. So just to describe the properties as a whole, all 3 properties are located with their frontage along Franklin Avenue between Witherspoon Street and Jefferson Road. Across the street, directly across the street from these properties is the Avalon at Princeton development. The Princeton Cemetery is located right behind lots 26 and 27, just to kind of get a geographic location of where we're at. The existing zoning of the properties, lots 26 and lots 27 are within the AH6 affordable housing zone. And there's a little more detail in the report about that, and I can discuss that as needed. But the remaining third lot, lot 2, is within the R4A zone. It's important to note that all 3 lots have an affordable housing overlay over them. That is the AH06 overlay zone. And just generally, the area is surrounded by the mixed residential retail office district, the residential business district, and R3, R4, and R8 zones. There's a lot of zoning districts that abut these properties. So just a quick explanation of the lots. Lot 27 is the existing parking lot. This parking lot was constructed to serve the former hospital. There are 2 entrances to this parking lot. There's really not much else to the site. There previously were picket gates and booth arms that were there. They are no longer there.
Davis, I'm so sorry to interrupt. Can somebody share a screen and show these?
Oh yeah, I can pull
show
up my
these
screen.
lots on the screen for people to. I think we all know the property that we're talking about, but for us, anybody who's not intimately familiar with it, and of course, for the people who are attending, who are not panelists, it's very helpful. Thank you so much.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
Can you zoom in some?
There you go. So this is the just blank lots with the tax lines on there. And then this is an aerial image, which is probably a little bit helpful too. Would you prefer the aerial for the discussion?
And Michael, if this is a fresh exhibit, you should indicate that. If
this is the report.
Okay, if you could just state where it comes from, that would be great.
Yep. This is page 9 of the area in need of study dated December 4th, sorry. So this is an aerial image just displaying the property. So this is lot 27 that I'm circling with my cursor over here. This is an existing parking lot. You can see that there are dividers here. This parking lot was previously separated. It had the hospital vacated in 2012. And since that time, this lot has been used for various activities, including a farmer's market, municipal parking, and at one point it was used as overflow for school parking. So it's been utilized for a lot of different parking reasons, but of late there have not been any. It has not really seen much use. The property is also owned by the Municipality of Princeton. All three properties are owned by the Municipality of Princeton, as previously mentioned. So lot 26, as we move here to the center of the property, lot 26 is known as Franklin Terrace. This is a 10-unit multifamily residential development that was constructed in 1938. There are three single-family buildings located on the property that sort of form a U shape and a little courtyard that fronts onto Franklin Street. Um, there's a little parking area to the rear back here, but this development is vacant. It has not been occupied, and site visits demonstrated that, along with additional photos that are in this report. So lot 2, continuing to move. Lot 2 is also owned by the Municipality of Princeton. This also is a 10-unit residential development. Its layout is a little bit different just based on the way the lot is shaped, but it still consists of three separate buildings and 10 units total in that project. So that's pretty much the summary of the properties themselves. Overall, I think that a lot of people are aware that there's really hasn't been much happening here of late, and essentially what the board is tasked with doing and what the board did in 2021. And I'm going to scroll down in this report, and I will bring us to the redevelopment criteria, which are on page 21. So essentially, the local redevelopment and housing law establishes criteria by which the planning board evaluates properties. And if the properties meet one of the criteria, they don't need to meet more than one. All they need to meet is a minimum of one. Then the area can be determined in need of redevelopment. So just quickly, I'll go through the criteria. The generality of buildings are substandard, unsafe, unsanitary, dilapidated, or obsolescent, or possess any of such characteristics, or are so lacking in light, air, or space as to be conducive to unwholesome living or working conditions. The discontinuance of use of a building or buildings previously used for commercial, retail, shopping malls, or plazas. That one doesn't really apply here because we really don't have any commercial uses. Land is owned by the municipality, the county, a local housing authority, or redevelopment agency, or redevelopment entity, or unimproved vacant land that has remained so for a period of 10 years. This isn't unimproved vacant land, so that doesn't really qualify here. Criterion D, areas with buildings or improvements which by reason of dilapidation, obsolescence, overcrowding, faulty arrangement or design, lack of ventilation, light and sanitary facilities, excessive land coverage, deleterious land use, or obsolete layout, or any combination of these factors are detrimental to the safety, health, morals, or welfare of the community. That one does apply here, and I'll get into more detail on that later. E, a growing lack or total lack of proper utilization of areas caused by the condition of title, diverse ownership of the real properties therein. Again, these are all owned by the Municipality of Princeton, so title and ownership don't really come into play here as a redevelopment criteria. F, areas in excess of 5 continuous acres where buildings or improvements have been destroyed, consumed by fire, demolished, or altered by the action of storm, fire, cyclone, tornado. Again, there hasn't really been a sort of natural disaster impact on these properties, so F doesn't apply either. G applies to urban enterprise zones, which Princeton does not qualify as, so that one doesn't apply either. And H is a very general criterion that planners don't typically like to hang their hat on. Essentially, this one states that the designation of the delineated area is consistent with smart growth principles. This has been relatively untested in court, and hanging your hat on smart growth as a sole redevelopment criteria is not really something that you see too often. So H doesn't really come into play here either. So In looking at those redevelopment criteria, we have determined that all three of the properties are recommended for designation under criterion D. That specifically discusses areas with buildings or improvements by which reason of dilapidation, obsolescence, overcrowding, faulty arrangement or design, all that, like essentially basically these properties are detrimental to the safety, health, morals, and welfare of the community because of the way that the buildings are laid out, the way that the buildings are designed. There's a lack of ventilation in the properties. There's a lack of even the square footage of the properties, as I'll get into in more detail, is contributes all to the recommendation that criterion D applies here. Lots 2 and 26, which are the properties. I will go back up to my map now that I'm going to start talking about these. I am back up to page 8 here just to show the breakdown of the three lots. Lots 2 and 26, which contain the residential properties, also qualify under criterion A. The generality of buildings are substandard, unsafe, unsanitary, dilapidated, or obsolescent, or possess any of such characteristics, or are lacking in light, air, or space as to be conducive to unwholesome living or working conditions. Essentially, the properties, this discusses that the properties aren't really safe to live in. And there are specific points within the report, as I will discuss, that point to those qualities. So how does Lot 27 qualify? Lot 27 is a surface parking lot that had previously served the hospital, which has not been operating for about 9 years, at least 9 years, leaving the lot obsolete and consistently parked well under capacity, as can be seen in the aerials in the report. The site is surrounded by single-family dwellings, a cemetery, multifamily structures with their own parking lot. So there really is little need for this parking lot. And I think that recent site visits have shown that there really is not much activity in this parking lot. The parking lot has not been maintained. As you can see in the report, there are pictures of pavement under disrepair. Wheel stops are kind of scattered around the property. The parking gates that were previously there are just kind of looks like they maybe were just removed, and there's some wiring hanging out of the ground. So essentially, the property just has a lack of improvements and lack of maintenance. Additionally, the property is characterized by excessive impervious coverage. The zoning allows for 80% impervious coverage, where the site currently exists at near 100%. In discussions with former land use engineer Jim Purcell, he confirmed that there's no stormwater management catch basins on site or infrastructure to address any of the stormwater runoff from this property. So essentially, all of this just runs onto adjacent property. All the stormwater from this runs off to adjacent properties with nothing to address it. So essentially, all of these qualities leave this property obsolete. Lots 26 and Lot 2, I will discuss together because they essentially follow the same criteria. They are almost identical developments with the exception of the parking that exists on Lot 26 that Lot 2 doesn't have, as well as the layout of the buildings. Lot 26 has more of a U shape, while as Lot 2 just sort of all the buildings exist in a row. So Lot 26 is developed with Franklin Terrace, as I discussed, a 10-unit residential development that was constructed in the 40s. The units are identical in size and layout, as well as on Lot 2. So all the units end up measuring roughly the same. One of the important notes that's indicated in the report is that each apartment measures roughly 489 square feet and consists of 1 or 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, living space, linen closet, and a bathroom. The unit size that these units exist at does not even qualify for HMFA, Housing Mortgage and Finance Agency, or Unified Housing Affordability Controls. These are standards. Basically, these are programs where existing units are taken and rehabbed, reconstructed, and improved upon. The minimum requirement for those programs is 600 square feet for a 1-bedroom unit and 800 square feet for a 2-bedroom unit. And then as for the unified housing affordability controls, this is the neighborhood preservation balanced housing rules. Their rules indicate that the minimum bedroom size is 550 square feet for studios and 600 for 1-bedroom units. So the size of the units doesn't even allow them to be in any way rehabilitated through any of these existing programs that do support these kind of obviously there's a lot of existing housing units that are getting older, and these programs are intended to provide opportunities to reconstruct housing and not remove housing, and these units don't even qualify for that. So that just adds to the fact that they're obsolete, and really redevelopment is benefit here. Additionally, there are kitchen outlets that do not have ground fault circuit interrupters, GFCIs, which are standard per the National Electric Code, that they need to be required in all bathrooms and kitchens. So just adding to the unsafeness of the property. The units are not ADA accessible, which is a requirement for units, especially in affordable units of late. There's a lot of requirements for accessibility. Signs of disrepair were noticed. As you can see in the report, there are images throughout that demonstrate conditions of crumbling ceilings, cracked walls, rotted baseboards, mold, and several other conditions that just demonstrate that the properties have been allowed to fall into a state of disrepair. So overall, the area in need of redevelopment study that has been on file with the municipality, concludes that all 3 lots can be designated under criterion D, and lots 2 and 26 can be designated under criterion A. And we recommend that the municipal council and planning board take the necessary steps to designate the study area as an area in need of redevelopment, non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment, to be specific. So if there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer from the board.
Thanks,
Otherwise, that
Davis.
summarizes it.
Okay. Board members, have you got questions for Michael Davis or Jerry or anyone?
Not me.
Mr. Cohen.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer from the perspective of council, part of the reason that we're looking to update this is that there are some impediments to funding of the planned redevelopment that was intended for this site that may require subdivision and phasing of the redevelopment. And that would be facilitated by having the redevelopment designation. So I just wanted to let the board know what the sort of the intent behind the request was. It doesn't really play into the decision of whether it qualifies as an area in need of redevelopment. But, in case members were concerned, what we have in mind, that's really all we're doing, is trying to facilitate the funding of the project that was already sort of envisioned for this property from 4 years ago. And enabled by the zoning that was put in place at that time.
Good context. Thank you. If there are no other questions or comments from board members, I will open the public comment portion of the hearing. If you are here, there are 8, now 10 members of the public in the attendees room, if you will. Any of you attending who would like to address the board at this time, please virtually raise your hand, and we will bring you over to the participants or panelists room, if you will, and Mr. Mueller will swear you in and ask for your name and ask you to spell your name, and then we'll let you talk. So I see that Anita Garoniak, I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly, has been brought over. So if you would, good, unmute yourself, thank you, and activate your camera if you can. And then again, I'll just say, anybody else who wishes to speak, go ahead and raise your hand now virtually, and we'll bring you over in the order in which hands are raised.
Hi.
I don't see any other hands going up. Ms. Groniak?
Hi, I don't have a camera. I'm on a desktop, so there's no camera here for me to activate. So,
Okay, well, you'll just have to promise that you're raising your right hand when Mr. Mueller asks.
my right hand.
I
Okay,
swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth.
I do.
So sworn. Could you please state your full name and spell your last name?
Anita Garoniak, Garoniak.
Thank you.
thank you. Go right ahead.
Okay. Just a few things. I have two questions, but I did want to make a comment and, well, actually I have three questions. Um, uh, Regarding the description of Lot 27 as not in use, um, not to be pedantic, but it has been in use, and of course it's not in use now because the entrance to the lot is blocked. So you can't really genuinely say the lot is not used anymore, it's underused or not used at all when you've blocked the entrance to it. But prior to it being blocked, it was been a staging area for all the work that's gone on in Princeton last summer and before that. And it was used by the high school, and that lot was full when they were parking there. So just for the record, the lot's not in use now because the entrances to the lot are blocked. To my questions. One, the major question is, and this goes to my other question regarding what is envisioned, which David Cohen mentioned. The neighborhood is not sure what is envisioned. There was some meetings 4 years ago, but if there is a plan, it hasn't been presented to the neighborhood. My question here is, what will the neighbors be allowed to or be participating in what is envisioned for the lot? We saw a lot of things several years ago, pre-pandemic, I think, or maybe during the pandemic, about the lot, but there were many things that were presented, but none that we know were decided upon. And the neighbors who participated at that time, some of those neighbors aren't here anymore, and there are new neighbors here who are asking questions about what's going on. So we would like to know that if we are participating in that design, and that would be presented to us. My second question has to do with the previous people living in the affordable housing units. But if you want to answer that one first, then I'll finish up with that question afterwards.
If you could pose each of the three questions and then we'll address them.
Okay, so the one is, what is envisioned? When will we see what's envisioned? Our neighbors going to be participating in the design?
Right, we got that one. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, I just don't want to end up cutting you off. So,
and that's one and two. And then the previous people who lived in the housing, in the affordable housing units, will they be given apartments in the new, is that guaranteed that they'll be giving apartments in the new built apartments on the lot? Those are my
okay. All right, thank you for those. Probably the best person to speak to these answer. Well, I won't judge who's the best person. Justin, you've got your hand up, so you can start, and Mr. Cohen may want to weigh in, as well as Mayor Frida. Justin?
Yep, I was thinking the exact same thing, Madam Chair. And I'll just start with to the first question of when the neighbors will be able to provide input. There will still need to be, at a minimum, a redevelopment plan put on this site to essentially do anything with this area need designation. That goes through the planning board. You know, it's introduced at council. It comes to the planning board for a review of compared to the master plan, like you saw earlier with the shade tree one, and then it would go back to the council for the plan to be approved. And after that, there would still need to be site plan review at the planning board on the specific development per all of our state rules, where we'll have things on file, we'll have public comment, all that that normally happens at the planning board. Those are the two things at a minimum that are required to happen before anything is built here. And then secondly, the question on the previous tenants. I believe when the housing authority sold the property to the municipality, or at least before then, the tenants were relocated to other housing authority properties. There's differences in the criteria for the tenants of housing authority properties and the tenants of the properties that count towards our fourth round Mount Laurel requirement. So I don't believe there's a guarantee that can be made that those same tenants will be relocated back to this site from their current homes at other housing authority properties, but they may be eligible to apply.
Thanks for that, Justin. And so the question of what's envisioned will become clear when the redevelopment plan comes into sharper focus. Is that Mr. Cohen?
Yeah, I just wanted to at least partially answer that question. The task force that worked on design guidelines for this site, those design guidelines were provided to the developer who is with whom the municipality has a development agreement for the site. And it's still the same developer. So we haven't changed horses. We're not working with somebody else. And they have, undertaken to incorporate the recommendations of that task force into the design for the site. So I don't think there's any, there hasn't been any discussion about redoing the recommendations or opening a new process, but the process that was done 4 years ago is still very relevant to the design of what's going to be going on the site here. And beyond that, I would just say that it would be great, for folks who are interested to come to council, actually, because that council will be sort of managing the redevelopment process. Planning board is just being asked to opine on whether these sites qualify under the criteria for an area in need of redevelopment. The planning board doesn't really have any input into how the actual redevelopment process will go. So that's more a pressure point for council than for the planning board.
Now, David, under the local housing and redevelopment law, the governing body can ask the planning board to do the redevelopment plan, but the council is going to do that in this case, correct?
I believe so. We have been doing that through the third round, and I think that's this is actually still a third round site. So I anticipate the council will be managing that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And David, are those design guidelines and the other documents that I think you referenced available on the website? I would not know exactly where to go to find them.
I'm going to actually bounce that back to Justin because I'm not 100% sure.
And I'm not 100% sure either. That was actually right when I started, and it was before we migrated to this new website framework. So I would have to double check that. But if they're not, I'll see if I could round them up and add them to the planning department and the planning board page.
Yeah, I've got a copy of them, Justin. So
okay, excellent.
So if the board tonight finds or recommends adoption of the area in need of redevelopment designation, it goes back to council. Council will act on that probably early-ish in 2026. Do you anticipate? I don't mean to put anybody on the spot. I'm just for the benefit of the public and when they might expect to see the background information and understand when approaching council, what kind of timing makes sense. That might be helpful.
I think that is true. I can't guarantee it, but I think early 2026.
Okay. Ms. Nuka?
I just wanted to ask if either Justin or perhaps David could just remind us of how many units are foreseen for the site under the third round plan. It's been months since I looked at that. So if you could just give us, and I think that might be helpful for the
Sure.
attendees as well.
Agreed. Justin?
Sure. So this site was carried through from the third round to the fourth round plan because we still need to finish our third round sites, and I think this is the only one that we haven't. And in our fourth round housing plan, it mentions 80 units of workforce housing and 80 units of designated affordable housing, which tracks with what we have in the existing affordable housing overlay 6 that's on these sites.
Okay. So workforce housing would then be for municipal employees, school district employees? Is that what is meant by workforce housing? No. Alvin shaking his head.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a specific definition of it as a percentage of the area median income. I don't
Okay.
know that off the top of my head, but it's not the same as the designated affordable, the
Okay.
low, very low, and moderate income. It's somewhere above that.
It's a bit higher than moderate.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I'll just,
it's a fixed range. It's not a separate scale.
Right.
Like we have the low, moderate
Yeah.
Yes.
scale, and it's
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 the next higher, it's sort of the
it's the
next
next higher one
income
on that
range.
same scale.
Right.
And
Okay.
I will say, I don't think that we have, as people may be familiar, affordable housing has to be affirmatively marketed in like a 3-county area. We can't reserve it for,
Right.
residents of Princeton or employees in Princeton. And I would expect that the workforce housing is the same or worse in the sense that we may not have any control over, who lives there other than what the price range would be.
And just to follow up in the same vein, this would count as 100% affordable, or it would
50.
The
based on
workforce,
Justin's
the workforce housing does not contribute
Oh,
to
okay.
our COA obligation or our
Affordable housing obligation.
affordable housing obligation.
And does that count as below market rate?
It is below market rate, and it has to
Okay.
do with what kinds of funding are available. There are
Okay.
some special streams of funding that are supposed to be designated for the workforce housing, but it doesn't count towards our unit count for like I said, for the affordable housing.
Okay.
And in addition to the funding, the idea also is these people who otherwise could afford this workforce housing are not going to be able to afford, certainly in Princeton and many other places, normal market rate housing. So it's trying to hit a niche that's not being served.
Mm-hmm.
Missing middle is kind of a term that's been used a lot, and I
Yeah,
think is
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
accurate.
Exactly.
Missing middle, where we're building affordable
Mhm.
units and they're building really nice units, but nothing in between.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
I would argue missing middle is about housing types, but I don't want to get into that right now. But just because I know
I
it's
knew
going to
that
come
was
up in
going to
the
happen.
future. Yeah.
That's
Saw it
yeah.
coming.
Okay, we don't have time for that, but thank you. That's helpful, and I think that was also helpful for the previous attendee who asked.
Yes, and also to her question about the public involvement and neighborhood involvement, in addition to what Mr. Cohen pointed out about, coming to council, the different steps that happen, of course, at planning board, as Mr. Lesko outlined, the redevelopment plan, site plan review, those are all public processes. That's, after plans are largely baked. So it's very important to take Mr. Cohen up on his suggestion to, to talk to council sooner rather than later. And of course, anyone who has follow-up questions, or maybe doesn't want to address the board tonight, but, would like to know more, is welcome to reach out to Mr. Lesko. Is that right?
Certainly.
And you can either answer them or direct them to the right place.
Yep.
So thanks for those questions, Ms. Garuniak. And are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the board? I'm not seeing any hands go up. So seeing that, I will close the public comment portion of the hearing and invite further thoughts, comments, questions from board members before we consider a resolution or a motion, excuse me. Anything else? Okay, would anyone like to move that the planning board recommends council approval of these parcels as an area in need of redevelopment?
Well,
I would move that.
It's the planning board really has determined that these parcels satisfy one and one criteria under the local.
Turned to you first, Mr. Mueller. Yes, the planning board finds. Someone said, was that you, Mr. Boddigheimer?
Yes. So
okay.
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I can second.
Thank you, Ms. Nuka. Justin, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm going to try to do this in the dark because my lights just turned out. Mr. Boddigheimer?
Yes.
Ms. Capizzoli?
Yes.
Councilman Cohen?
Yes.
Mayor Frida?
Yes.
Mr. McGowan?
Yes.
Ms. Nuka?
Yes.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes.
Ms. Perlmutter?
Yes.
And Chair Curry Wilson?
Yes.
Motion
Well
carries.
done, Mr. Lesko, by the light of your screen.
Someone's got to pay the bills here.
I hesitate to ask, does this qualify your office as an area in need of redevelopment?
Right now it does.
Depends on the financing.
I just want to say it's just great to see this, what's envisioned is this mix of designated affordable and workforce below market rate housing. There is no other place, as far as I know, in Princeton that fits that description. And I just think it's a really interesting notion, and I very much look forward to seeing how it comes together. The devil's in the details, of course, and I'm sure neighbors will be very curious, and so am I. Are there other? Is there any other business? Okay, well, I know Mr. Cohen has one more item of business, but before he does, I want to say happy holidays to everybody. Happy Hanukkah to those who celebrate. We're right in the midst of Hanukkah. Merry Christmas next week. Happy New Year. All of that. It's wonderful to see all the lights all around town. Mr. Cohen.
I heard on the Tonight Show last night that we call the middle of Hanukkah Happy Hump Day.
I like that.
A new Jewish joke.
We come up with one every 1,000 years. All right. I move to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everyone. See you in
Aye.
January.
Yeah.
Until
Thank you all.
then,
Happy holidays,
Stay
everyone.
warm.
Happy holidays all.
Holidays.
Safe and dry. Good night.
Night.